And the woman that got on the plane had finally figured out what she wasn't going to be. I finally got honest with myself. I moved to building a new life in an environment where I felt values, my value structure matched closer to the environment, to the community, to the culture. You always have a choice. And if you stay in a situation that you don't like, then that is a conscious choice.
Bonjour tout le monde and welcome back. Today's guest is someone I'm especially excited to introduce to you. Many people who watch this channel are dreaming about a new life in France or preparing to make the leap. And while practical questions matter, one thing I've always been interested in through Feel Good French is what happens beneath the surface during a major life change. What struck me when I discovered Lynnelle's YouTube channel is that she explores many of those same questions: identity, reinvention, grief, uncertainty, belonging, and what it really means to start over. At 67, Lynnelle sold most of what she owned and moved from the United States to a small medieval town in the Loire Valley near Orléans. Through her videos, she speaks openly about what she calls the messy middle, that space between the life you've left behind and the life you are still creating. I was also touched by the quality of presence Lynnelle brings to these conversations. There is a depth and a wisdom that I think many of you will appreciate as we talk about friends, change, identity, and what it really means to start a new chapter in life. Lynnelle, bonjour et bienvenue.
Yeah, merci beaucoup. Je suis très content d'être ici.
Ah, très
Was
bien.
that good?
C'est super, très bonne prononciation. Comment ça va? Comment ça va aujourd'hui? Ça va bien?
Oui, very good. Thank you. I'm happy to
Euh,
be here. Yeah, this is I feel quite honored. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you for accepting to come. When I discovered your YouTube channel, I really wanted you to have a discussion with me because everything you said in your video very resonated a lot with the topic that I'm covering as well in Feel Good French. And I really wanted to introduce you to my community. I think people will really like your message, all the things you have to say. And I don't think there is enough talk around those discussion and the topic of, moving to France and the messy middle, as you mentioned. But to come back to that, I wanted to ask you just as a beginning, could you tell us a little bit about the woman that got on that plane? How long ago was that? Was that 2 years ago, the moment where you came to France?
It's coming up on 2 years, the 14th of July.
Oh, yes.
No, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 6th of July.
Okay, almost there. Almost
Yeah,
2 years.
almost there. A couple of weeks. Yeah. About that woman. Oh my goodness. That woman had finally been through a lot of the beginnings of the messy middle that you're talking about before the change. The messy middle, I say, is that weird no man's land after a life that you've been living is done, finished, whether it's retirement or a divorce or empty nest, whatever that, shift is in your life. But before you really know what comes next or who you're going to be. And the woman that got on the plane had finally figured out what she wasn't going to be and looked at options and made a conscious decision to go in a certain direction. Wasn't quite sure what was going to be on the other side, but she had made a decision, a conscious decision, without just letting things happen around her.
Wow. And what instilled this journey? Like what put you on this track? Because I think, you know, maybe you were in the crossroad. You speak a lot about grief, about, you know, I think you ended a marriage and you lost a dog, and it was the end of your career, maybe, or some professional
Hmm.
change. But you
Yeah.
could have keep going and continue with your life as it was, or but what instilled? What was the beginning? Was it like an event, a specific question that came to you, a book, someone you met? What put you on this
Yeah.
track?
I think, I mean, it's such a loaded discussion, and it starts, when you're young for me, and finally getting to a place in my life and getting honest with yourself
Hmm.
and realizing that a situation that I found myself in was not uncommon. I mean, it was a different situation. The characters were different and the scenario was different. But if you look back at job changes or marriages or moves, there was a common thread in my particular instance, not to get too psychological, down in the weeds with it, but in my particular situation was kind of just letting things happen because of the fear if I stood my ground, or the fear if I said no would disrupt other people or make someone unhappy or whatever, was just not messing with what's going on, just keeping the peace. It's not like I just woke up at, 66 and a half and had all this strength and insight and clarity. Is that it started a long time ago. And what happened with me was that I finally got honest with myself, and I started to recognize patterns of behavior, of allowing situations to happen and getting into going on to paths that really weren't a conscious decision. It's just the life was unfolding and I let it. So recognizing that pattern didn't happen until I was 66 and a half.
When you speak about being honest with yourself, you said that maybe it started long time ago. Like you already had like the soil was there, but like it really you took a conscious decision at this time. But when you mentioned the word being honest with yourself, does that mean that you were maybe not completely honest with yourself before that? And
Yeah.
in which sense could you give us an example of this lack of honesty towards your life and yourself?
I think the way it shows up is telling yourself that you don't have a choice. And I think one of the things we've talked about is, am I too old to do this? Right? You get to a point, and really being honest with yourself about what it is that you want or what you don't want, and not blaming life's circumstances for where you are or why you can't do something. I was good at blaming my mom because, she made me the way I was, or blaming my dad, or, blaming circumstances.
I like
And
the word radical responsibility. You know, like maybe it
Mhm.
was a way for you to say, no, I'm responsible. That's my life, and I do have a choice.
Yep. That is exactly what I preach, is that you may not be responsible for a lot of the things that happen in your life, but you are always responsible for how you react to it or what you do with it. You always have a choice. And if you stay in a situation that you don't like, then that is a conscious choice. And you are responsible for being there after you are honest with yourself. And it's hard. It sucks
Yeah.
sometimes.
About this feeling of that you didn't have the choice, I'm curious about something like, do you reckon that in the culture in the USA, in where you are from, there is maybe more conformity than in Europe.
Yeah. Yes.
You think so? Yeah.
Yes.
It's like a life has, we have one way to live life kind of thing, or?
Yes, and it's all, not all. I speak in like extremes, so bear with me on this. It's so much more in the United States, in my experience, that the culture of being accepted, the culture of matching what someone else says is proper or sufficient or the way you should be, as opposed to what you believe inside, your values, what you find important. I absolutely, I experience that every day and I notice it
Do
here.
you think it's because it is the new world and people have less roots than in Europe? Maybe in Europe because it's an old world and people maybe are more connected to their his personal history. Maybe we don't need to justify ourselves or to people please all the time. Do you think maybe that's one of the explanation or?
Yes, yeah, I haven't thought about it that way, but when you were speaking, it reminded me of my first time going to Britannia, and the history is so much longer, right, in France than it is in the United States. What we're on our 250th, and there's, you know, 12, 1600 years that, I could think of over here with the history of the culture, the history of the people is very, very important here. And that goes way back. And I think so much of the personal values of the people that I've gotten to know are based on the history and who we are as people, not who I am as an individual person. I think that's one of the big differences that I recognize here. And once you're accepted in the community, even a little bit, like I've only been here 2 years and I have made some friends and I feel very fortunate in that. And once you're accepted in that community, you belong, whether, it doesn't matter what car you have or whether you have makeup on or not, or any of that stuff that's so critical to so many people in the States.
Yeah, that's something that I only been to the USA once. It was in Oregon. And I remember, because I lived in a family for 1 month, and I remembered that it was quite materialistic, at least this very surrounding, but the size of the car, the size of and they were telling me the price of everything they owned. I was like, okay, I didn't care at all for the
Yeah,
price of things, but it was like
yeah,
some sort of people were being very proud of their material possessions and belongings. And that is very strange because in France, it's kind of the opposite. We don't like to brag about expenses, and we try not to say if we spend a lot of money on something. We try to not
yeah,
to speak about it. I think it's
yeah.
one of the biggest difference.
Now, when you get closer with people, that it's not the bragging comes up, but the talk about, c'est trop cher, it's too expensive. I mean, those things will start to come up, but not as bragging tools. It's not an indicator of your success or your self-worth or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, completely different culture.
Hmm.
But there
Hmm.
is also positive aspect, of course, in the American culture. I don't say it's good or bad. I mean, you have this strong work ethic that I admire. You work really
Yes.
hard, and I mean, you are very entrepreneur. In France, we are not that entrepreneur. Like
Yeah.
I think there is pros and cons, of course. Um,
Absolutely. And also, I want to say too that when you get into Paris or Lyon or some of the bigger metropolitan cities is very different than where I am, a small little village near Orléans. Beaugency is the name of the little village where I've settled, and it's much more traditional here. So you don't have a lot of the entrepreneurial forward
yeah,
enterprises here.
Yeah, there is definitely a contrast between, as you mentioned, bigger city and la campagne, the countryside is completely different. But tell us a little bit, we spoke about this big transition in your life, and we had a talk before together when you said that the fact that this change happened as well, meanwhile, when you were moving to France, is a bit coincidental. Like it could have been in another country. France is not necessarily like a destination for you. It's more like the catalyst. But I was wondering why France came into appear on your radar, and
Yeah.
why specifically the area where you are right now. Like how did that come into play? By the way, if you are new here, bonjour, I'm Deborah, a French teacher and the founder of the French language school Feel Good French. If you'd like more resources on French language, culture, and life in France, simply scan the QR code on the screen. You'll find my website, blog, newsletter, and plenty of free content. And if you are enjoying this conversation, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel in order to follow more interviews to come. And that will make my day. Merci beaucoup, and let's go back to the interview.
Well, France in general, I've always been enamored with France since middle high school. Madame Olson in seventh grade French class. I don't know. She was the coolest. She had the coolest white go-go boots. And I loved the accent. I loved Monsieur and Madame Thibault from the lessons. Ever since then, France, I was just in love with France. So that's, I think, why France, and it never left me. And when I was working and hoped to have the opportunity to be transferred to our Paris office. That never happened, unfortunately, but I had a girlfriend for whom it did happen, and I came to visit her, stayed with her a little bit. And I'd been back and forth to France a few times, by now, and it was 1999, I think. And I came to visit her, and she said, if you think that you'll ever be over here, or if you come over here enough, open a checking account, get a bank account. This was before all of the, you know, paperwork and the, 9/11 and all the security issues like that. And it was relatively easy to open an account.
You didn't need a proof of accommodation, like a proof of, yeah, these days you need the Graal, the facture d'électricité. You need to
Yeah.
show that you live somewhere in order to open the bank account. For you, it was really easy, just going there.
Yeah. And I lucked into it. So much of this is just it. I lucked into it, and the timing was on my side. So I opened up the account in 1999 and I funded it, and I just kept, a little bit of money. And every time I would come over here, that was the account that I would use, and I
Ah,
would move money into it. So I never closed that account and from 1999 until now. Still the account that I'm using, two or
ah.
three different banks later.
As a
But that,
background for our listeners, you worked in a bank. That was your
I,
job, your
yes.
profession.
Yeah, I worked in a bank,
Yeah.
and I worked in an environment where the businesses that I worked with had divisions or entities outside of the US. So I was working with people who were working in banks around the world. So anyway, that's why France. It was always France for me. 2017 was when I quit working. Number of reasons. I was 60. I turned 60 years old that year, in 2017. And
Milestone 60 is a big.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I moved from Dallas to Austin to help my sister care for my mom. Did that for a few months, and then my mom passed away. So I had that big year of quitting a pretty, intense job. I don't have children. I relocated. My mom died. So that was my real life quake. So I mean, I had two or three things that compounded. And it was really at that point, just after that point, that I said, I was going through this messy middle and not really having a name for it, and just knowing I was crawling out of my skin. And, I just was reaching out, trying, okay, I need to volunteer more, I need to find a hobby, all of those things. And I finally, went to France and thought, you know what? I can like buy something and live here for part of the time. It was never to move here full time.
Okay. It starts with
So
something small and then
yeah, yeah. And one of the questions you asked me was why Beaugency? And well, I looked and I said, I can't afford Paris. So I drew a circle around Paris, and I wanted to be within 2 hours of a train ride. And I just kind of started looking online, and I called a few places, looked a few places. Vendôme was one of the areas I looked, which is kind of near, is it near Chartres? About an hour away. And I looked at a couple other places, but I needed history. I needed, somewhat manageable environment, and I wanted France. I didn't want an expat community where I would be too comfortable and living in France with the backdrop, but really not living in France with the culture and all. I ended up in Beaugency by happenstance. There was an ad online. I called. Well, what I'd looked at was not available, but she had something else, and I drove down here. I was staying in Vendôme at the time.
Ah, si. You spend a certain
I,
period of.
yeah, I spent 4 weeks
I
in
see.
total.
Sorry, I know people will ask these questions. They are thirsty for references. And do you remember the name of the agency that you used? If it was
Yes, I would, but I would not recommend it. So I
ah, okay,
hesitate. I hesitate to, and the woman that I worked with, she was very kind, but she's since retired.
no
Yeah, I
reference.
would not recommend them, and we can
Okay,
have a different podcast on that
yeah,
about
okay,
why.
okay. Just to know because sometimes there is the questions after the interview and well,
Yeah. So if anybody,
yeah,
yes, I'd be happy to speak to somebody offline,
yeah.
but I did come to drive to Beaugency. I did see the apartment. I walked in, and other than having an outdoor place, there's no balcony or little courtyard or anything. It was like, wow, yeah, this is it. And it was something I could actually afford, like without having to take a loan out. This is 2018. Things have changed just a little bit around
Yeah.
in Beaugency. So I went back and decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I pulled the trigger, signed the papers, and came back in January of 2019.
That
And
was quite
face-
fast.
yeah, Facebook Marketplace,
Yeah.
the couch, dishes and everything. And yeah,
Ah,
and
you bought the second-hand furnitures.
oh yeah, I mean,
That's very French of you, seconde main. I know that some Americans have resistance to go to buy things second-hand, but I think in France we do that a lot.
well, I that was a necessity.
Yeah.
That was the way it was. Plus I don't know, can I tilt my camera and show
Yeah,
you?
of course,
It's
bien
like,
sûr.
okay. See, I mean, this is an old,
Ah, des poutres.
yeah, I've got
Très joli.
this is, I'm city center, and this building, these apartments that have been, or condos, it's from 1600 so it's old. And I think new furniture here would look weird.
Ah, yeah, you had to go with the style. But I can tell just with your style and all the frames behind you that you like the decoration. And did you let go of your old furniture in the USA? When you moved, when you relocated to look after your mom, did you already go through, letting go of your life
No,
accumulation of belonging, or what did you do with that? Because I think
no.
it's
Well, when
it's
I
also
moved,
psychological. Like,
yeah,
am I a true minimalist? Am I letting go of the past, or what do I do with that?
yeah. No, when I moved from Dallas to Austin, I didn't get rid of anything. I was still, anchored in my stuff.
Okay.
When I finally made the decision in 2024, probably in March, that I was okay, I'm going, I'm going to pull the trigger. And yeah, that's when I moved stuff from that had been in storage. It's a long story because 2023, I left Austin because I was finally realizing I have to get out of where I am now. I was staying with my sister and her husband, and I was realizing that so much of the change that I wanted to make, I couldn't make in the environment that I was living in because it's hard. When you're trying to make a change, it's more than willpower because it's yourself that you beat yourself up, the culture, right? The culture and the community and the family, and you start to change, then those around you feel it. And without knowing it, they are feeling a little uncomfortable because things are shifting and they're
Yeah.
used to you the way you've been, and you try to change. It's like they're threatened and they don't mean to do that. So anyway, the year before I moved here, I just put everything in storage and moved to
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina for a year, which I had never been before. So
Ah, I see. So that was like the middle step, moving further from the family.
yeah,
What you mentioned reminds me. I don't know how you say that in English, but in psychology we speak of systemic. Like, like how, like, when we want to change, there is a whole system to
yeah,
change. Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I realized I could not figure out in my head like who I was or who I was becoming
Mm,
in that environment. And I love my sister to death. She is my best friend,
mm.
and she has been here. She just left after spending a month here. I would never, but I wasn't strong enough in me at that point.
Well, that's led me to ask you this question because you mentioned that you decided to build this new chapter of your life in the country that you cherished, in the culture that you cherished. And you mentioned that you started to look for a flat and did all this research. And when you said that, I was wondering, were you all alone in that process, or did you have a little community already? Did you already start your YouTube channel? I will give the link, of course, towards your YouTube channel, which is really, really good. But I'm wondering, like, were you completely alone in this research, or like, did you find some sort of community online, or how did that work?
No, I didn't have a community online. And at that point in 2018, 2019, it wasn't as big of a thing as it is now after COVID and then the political environment that's, kind of motivating a lot of people to look elsewhere. When I moved I didn't move here, but between 2019 and then after 2020 with COVID, I would come and spend a month here, maybe twice a year, once, twice a year. And from that, again, I've been so fortunate. From that, I have met a couple of people who have introduced me to their families, who have introduced me to their circle of friends. And being such a small community where I am now, I'm somewhat of an anomaly, right? I'm the American. There may have been another person from the States that has moved close by. Someone has told me, but I haven't met them yet. So that has been helpful because people have known who I was. So that was helpful.
It's an anchor to give, at least if you have
Yeah,
like.
yeah. I didn't have to do as much work to meet a lot of people. Now, I did have to say yes when I probably wouldn't have in my normal life because I needed to get out and be comfortable meeting people in the language. I couldn't be afraid because I couldn't speak French very well.
Well, I'm just impressed because there is all kind of people that decide to take the leap and move to France. Sometimes they're couple, so when you are in a relationship, like you can support each other, but go through the grief, you are going through all those changes and decide to do such a move on your own. I'm just in admiration because it's stressful and it takes a lot of research, and so I was just wondering if you were a little bit supported in that. But were you always like a strong, autonomous woman, or you had to kind of boost yourself a little bit for this period, or like was it always a treat of yours, or?
I think I have always been, I don't know if strong is the word I'd use, but yeah, I think so. And I think, when I was talking earlier about this pattern, seeing this pattern and finally realizing it, is the pattern was being afraid of that autonomous strength that that your word, but being afraid of it, like I shouldn't, like I should be happy with this profession. I should be happy with this person. I stopped doubting that, and I started to just listen to myself and be okay with not having to do what everyone else thinks is the right thing.
I think it's not innocent. Yeah, yeah. When you say that, it just reminded me of this. I'd say I just think of the woman because I know you work with women, and that reminds me of this inner, la force, the strength, and this immense power that we women have. And I think I just don't think that it's innocent that your audience is mostly feminine, because I think there is often a silenced strength that's within us as a woman. So maybe that was there, like waiting to get out. And maybe, yeah, when you just decided to open this door and it just got unleashed.
Yeah, and also I think it's recognizing what you're telling yourself, and is it your truth, or is it what you've learned through growing up and either absorbing through culture or what parents have taught you or friends, is being able to honestly recognize what that is. Because I still get like, what the hell am I doing? And I'm sorry if I can say what the hell am I doing, but uh,
It's
that
okay.
doesn't
It's
go.
not television. You can. It's
You
not
know,
American television.
yeah, but that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away. And that's the practice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's mindfulness, visualization, whatever label you want to put on
Yeah.
it. It's understanding who you're listening to in there.
I would like to know a little bit more about, you mentioned that there was a lot of, I like the expression. I don't know if you invented it. I never heard Lifequake before. So there was this major Lifequake, and you decided that you needed to be away from
Hmm.
your direct surroundings.
Hmm.
So you decided to go to France. And how, like, once you had this kind of brand new life, brand new surrounding, how did you deal with the grief, with the loss, with the those all those emotions? And you speak about as well feeling pissed off in one of the video, like feeling, like all these emotions. So like, how did this new l'environnement français, the French surrounding, what did that enable you to do?
Well, first of all, I did not invent Lifequake,
Okay.
sadly. I would like to take credit, and we might have to dub this in later, but I believe it's a gentleman, might even be a doctor, Bruce Feller, I believe, and I will double check that, and you can put that
Yeah.
in the notes for your viewers, and talking about transitions I have done so much studying and so much research and so much exploration on this topic because I couldn't find anything for what I felt like I was dealing with. And I was going at it because I retired and all I could find was, find your passion or make sure you've got enough money or get a hobby. So that's where Lifequake came from. I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And I knew one person there who wasn't terribly close because again, to get away, to get away from that environment. But I think what it taught me was I can develop a community. I can start over. I can, you know, um, f- find a life, build a life that isn't attached to my history. I think that's what that taught me. Now, the language was not a problem, although sometimes with that accent it was, but basically, I did learn I could start again without bringing along any of the old baggage.
Because there is also the story that I think a lot of people that are watching us, as you mentioned, some of them are also in the similar circumstances. They start anew, they have lost things, and they maybe are, just retirement is in a way is losing something. You lose, if you are like the typical American workaholic, you lose 60 hours of your week that goes to nothing, and you have to kind of
Hmm.
rework on your identity. What's the purpose now? How to fill my days? And so a lot of people are thinking of moving to France or to Europe or somewhere else because of that. But I think what, after having done this tremendous amount of research on transition, on the messy middle, as you like to call it, what's the conclusion when we move to another country? All those questions, all those
Hmm.
tensions, those unresolved topics, they remain. Just the
Yeah.
surrounding is new, and maybe there is the honeymoon. You speak a lot about the honeymoon phase. At first, everything is new and fantastic and exciting, and the markets are beautiful, and the French accent is cute. But then, when that fades away, it's like
Yeah, I think you've touched on a few things there. And the phrase I like to use is like, no matter where you go, there you are. So if you are moving, whether it's to France or to a new city, wherever, if you are moving to a different place because you want a different life, it's important to figure out internally, like, what you're bringing to the table, because it's not just what's happening out there and how you react to it and whether you let it in or not, and all of those types of discussions. That will not change unless you are aware of what's happening and your part in perpetuating it. Right, so I'm going to say that right there. And then the other thing, and it kind of goes hand in hand, is if you're going to move, make sure you're moving to something and you understand what it is you're moving towards and that it's really there, right? So don't have some idealized fantasy about, oh my gosh, I'm moving to Nice and I'll be able to, go to Monte Carlo every weekend and, play blackjack, or I'll be able to whatever. That's not real life. Make sure you understand what real life is going to be like.
so.
And
What
then
is it for you? Could you share? What are you?
the
Uh,
real life or the
what you moved, you said that to take something that you are moving for,
moving to.
moving to, what is it for you?
I moved to building a new life in an environment where I felt values, my value structure, what I valued in life matched closer to the environment, to the community, to the culture. And again,
Oh.
I had not lived here full time before, but I had been here often enough and met enough people where I felt a connection and on that type of level. And just yeah, I think that was it. And having been in love with France for so long and
Mm.
the idea of the opportunity to really explore it further and deeper.
I really think it's interesting what you said because I think a lot of people are in this stage where they feel they have, as you mentioned, this intuition inside that tells them, I want to move to France, but maybe they think they are a bit crazy. Sometimes they, their surrounding, their friends or family are like, but are you going to give away everything, sell everything to go to, you don't even know for what reason? And but you mentioned that yourself, you had this little scouting trip and you had those anchors that was telling you, okay, that is the kind, they are my tribe. They are the kind of people I dig, the values I like. But for those people who still haven't found exactly that, they haven't met those right people, they did maybe a little scouting trip, but they still don't know where. I know some people, some of my students are still in the process of finding, a place or do you think it's very important to have that, to have this kind of a pull
The po-
from the pull from the people that you have met or the place that has, maybe you had un coup de cœur, like a lightning bolt for your village, for your town, like
Mhm,
for the people that's there. Some people haven't find that yet. They are
mhm,
still exploring a bit and they wonder if they should like just randomly pick a place because they still haven't find the place. Like, do you think
mhm.
that is important?
I think that before you decide to move, first of all, you like France for why, right? Why
Mm,
is it France for you? Is it, but understand the why and make sure that that is France, that you understand why and be honest with the why. The other is, I think, yes, before you put down roots, like buy a place or make a long-term commitment to a place, and long-term, I mean, a year or more, is it's important to get to know the community, yeah,
mm,
and the people and what they value. And even if you just lease a place for a year, see, if you recognize real quickly, what I would do is if I were to do it again and not having had those several years where I could come and spend a month or two at a time, because it was always, I was in the same apartment, I was with the same people, they got to know me, the boulangerie, the people got to recognize me. I think that's important so you're able to ascertain whether the community is the right fit for you,
mm.
right? So if I were to have been here 2, 3 months and start to feel like everybody's just a little bit weird or they're not kind or not friendly or not open, I would know that and I would not have stayed.
Mm,
I would not be here now.
yeah,
So I would say yes, but you don't have to like stay for a year.
of course. You mentioned to me that you are going to change your flat, like maybe you are looking at moving.
Hmm. I am.
So, do
I
you
am
think that?
buying town, a townhome with a little garden, so I have an
Ah,
outdoor space.
nice.
Yes, and the primary reason I'm doing that is because of the difficulty with the realtor, like how 7, 8 years ago, right? This
Mm-hmm.
French real estate is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenges that started never went away. And it's a long story, but yeah, the reason I am moving now is because of that. And I can have a little garden now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's right here. It's in the city center. It's not quite as in the center as I am now, but it's still here. I wouldn't. leave this little community.
Oh, nice, lovely. This community, who are the members of this community? Are they French people? Are they other foreigners? Like, could you tell us a little bit about
It's
la communauté?
predominantly French.
Mhm.
I do have a few friends, and we call ourselves the ladies who lunch. Once a month, we'll get together for lunch, and I'm the American, and the other three ladies are from the UK.
Ah,
So we get together and speak English, you know. But a lot of people, even the French friends that I have, except for one, wants to speak English. So I
mhm.
don't really have a big problem. But yeah, the community itself, a lot of elderly people live here. A lot of
Mhm.
younger people are starting to move in, but it's a little medieval country village.
Before we finish, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced what Lynnelle calls the messy middle? Maybe after retirement, after a big move, a loss, a divorce, or simply a period in life where you didn't know what would come next. Leave me a comment below. I read all of them, every single one of them, and I'm sure Lynnelle would like to hear your experience too. Make sure you already have signed up to the channel because next week the conversation goes on for part 2. We'll talk about the emotional side of moving abroad, the loneliness, becoming a beginner again, learning French, le français, and all the tools that Lynnelle uses in order to navigate big life transitions. And if you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did, please give the video a like. Lynnelle and I were commenting that if we have enough interest, we would love to gather again and have more conversation because we had a really nice time chatting together. Merci beaucoup d'avoir regardé. À bientôt. À la prochaine. C'était Déborah. Ciao, ciao.